federal government shuts down. The Gaza peace deal moves forward. Pfizer dropping drug prices, and more. Welcome to the Raw Naked Truth. I'm your host, Eric Lopkin, and here's the news you need to know. The federal government shut down last night just after midnight as Democrats rejected a resolution to fund the government for 7 more weeks because it didn't include money for health care subsidies. The White House has said it would institute widespread layoffs and potentially take other irreversible actions on government programs if the government shut down. President Trump can close functions he considers non-essential at agencies lacking funding. The military, federal law enforcement, the U.S. Post Office, and air traffic control will remain operational, and benefits such as Social Security and Medicare will also continue, though there may be disruptions and delays. In previous shutdowns, some federal services, including national parks, federal buildings, and museums, were closed, but officials say parks may stay open this time. Hamas and other Palestinian factions are leaning towards accepting President Trump's plan to end the war in Gaza, and they will present the group's response to Egyptian and Qatari mediators on Wednesday, according to a source close to the process. The plan, which President Trump presented alongside Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at the White House on Monday, is a 20-point proposal which, if agreed to, would see a swift ceasefire in Gaza, the release of all the remaining hostages and a number of Palestinian prisoners in Israel, an increased flow of humanitarian aid, and the eventual transfer of control over the territory to an interim administration of Palestinian technocrats overseen by an international board of peace chaired by President Trump. It says that within 72 hours of Israel publicly accepting this agreement, all hostages, alive and deceased, will be returned. Netanyahu appeared to publicly accept the agreement alongside President Trump on Monday. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth announced a series of changes to the armed forces Tuesday that he claimed will raise the standards of America's combat troops. The new policies, announced at an extraordinary meeting of hundreds of military leaders in Quantico, are an extension of Hegseth's campaign to reverse moves over the past 2 decades. He cast the moves as necessary to increase the lethality of U.S. troops. Hegseth's speech focused on raising the fitness standards for all U.S. service members, taking aim at overweight troops and generals, and more strictly enforcing grooming standards. Hegseth is also moving to change how basic training is conducted, empowering drill sergeants to instill what they called healthy fear in new recruits. To that point, basic training is being restored to what it should be: scary, tough, and disciplined. We're empowering drill sergeants to instill healthy fear in new recruits, ensuring that future warfighters are forged, Hegseth said during his speech. Yemen's Houthi terrorists stated they will target U.S. oil companies, including ExxonMobil and Chevron, despite an earlier truce agreement with the Trump administration to not attack U.S.-linked ships sailing in the Red Sea and the wider Gulf of Aden, the Iran-backed militia said on Tuesday. The announcement is a notice that the companies, which also includes ConocoPhillips and Diamond S Shipping, are deemed hostile entities that are open to attack. President Trump announced a deal with Pfizer to lower drug prices for Americans and launch a government-run site, TrumpRx, which will sell discounted prescriptions starting in early 2026. Pfizer said the deal will cover most of its primary care drugs and select specialty brands, with discounts averaging 50% and reaching up to 85%. Separately, Trump said Pfizer would offer all of its drugs to Medicaid at a reduced, most favored nation price, as well as introduce any new drugs to the U.S. market at the reduced prices. As part of the deal, Pfizer will move drug manufacturing to the U.S. In exchange, the company gets a 3-year grace period exempting it from Trump's planned 100% tariffs on imports. Consumer confidence edged lower in September ahead of the expected data blackout caused by the federal government shutdown, the Conference Board reported on Tuesday. The board's headline confidence index registered a 94.2 reading, off 3.6 points from the August reading and below the Dow Jones estimate for 96.0. The reading was the lowest since April and comes with non-essential government operations closing due to the shutdown. In addition to the weakness of the main reading, the Present Situation Index hit its lowest in a year. Consumers' assessment of business conditions was much less positive than in recent months, while their appraisal of current job availability fell for the 9th straight month to reach a new multi-year low, said Stephanie Gouchard, the organization's senior economist for global indicators. That's the raw naked truth. You can catch every episode of the Raw Naked Truth Daily News Brief, as well as our sister podcast, Carnivore Radio, with news analysis and commentary, and the rest of the Xvadio Podcast Network at xvadio.com, the Apple Podcast app, YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, Amazon Music, and other platforms that respect freedom of speech. We'll see you next time.